Hello everyone, I'm Akanksha Reddy, host of CyberSlay Talk Show, back with another episode with a very special guest joining with us today. We are honored to host a globally recognized cybersecurity leader who has been at the forefront of securing digital transformation initiatives across the UAE, Egypt, and the GCC region. With over 2 years of experience, Ahmed Nabil Mahmoud has held key leadership positions, head of engineering, head of cyber defense, for major banks, national infrastructure organizations, and technology driven enterprises. His expertise spans cybersecurity strategy, digital transformation, cyber defense, governance, and risk management. Beyond his leadership roles, Ahmed is also ambassador for responsible AI, actively advocating for ethical and secure AI adoption while helping organizations balance innovation, security, and compliance. So, today we'll dive into his remarkable journey, explore insights from his extensive experience, and discussing the evolving landscape of cybersecurity, emerging technologies, and responsible AI. So, everyone, please join me giving a warm welcome to our distinguished guest, Ahmed Nabil Mahmoud.
Hello,
Welcome to the
everyone.
show, Ahmed.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. Thank you.
So, how are you doing? Everything?
All is good. All is good. Thank you.
So, like you have we've seen with over 20 years in cybersecurity leadership in your career, like how have you seen the role of a CISO evolve over the years?
So first of all, thanks for the opportunity,
Yeah.
and hopefully this will be an interesting discussions for all the audience. So, as you mentioned, the CISO role or the cybersecurity leader role has changed over the years.
Yeah.
Um, when I recall, hopefully I don't look that old, but back like 20 years ago, I mean, the CISO or the cybersecurity itself, information security, was mainly not a niche or something like a dedicated role. It was more falling under the technology, more falling under the IT. So it's more about a technical role or maybe technical guardian, checking, for example, things like security devices, focusing on a perimeter, working most probably under ITD or the Department of IT. This was mainly the role back like 20 years. The major shift happened with the adoption of a lot of technologies, getting more compliance, getting more regulatory regulations coming in the field. This was the broad change where everyone realized the importance of the security and it becomes one of the main pillars of any organization. So, for example, most of the top level management, board level executive, have a lot of influence, have a lot of discussion. Security became one of the most important and the most treated risks in any organizations. This was the major change. He became accountable now for risk, for resilience, for compliance, for trust. And with the new technologies they mentioned, with the adoption of cloud, now we're seeing a lot of things with the AI. We're seeing a lot of things with the supply chain and digital transformation. So it changed from just a protector or a guardian to our network or to our office or to our business to enabling the business, to grow and be resilient in a very secure manner.
Yeah. So I think yeah, there's a lot of change from the last 2 decades, I think.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So I've seen compliance is often seen as just a checklist. So in your opinion, like how can organizations turn compliance into a real security advantage?
So a lot of organizations fall in this trap. Yani, thinking about compliance as
Yeah.
just as a checklist, the word that you just mentioned, is the main problem. And to be honest, a lot of us fall in this trap like decades ago when we're just thinking about we're having this regulator, we're having, for example, this organization, we're doing, for example, ISO, we're doing PCI or whatever. We just need to ensure that we're doing all these checklists, and that's the problem. To have it as an advantage, because most of this, we need to admit that most of these compliance, most of these regulatory mandates, most of these standardizations that are coming are really beneficial. They are a way to help you govern and regulate and ensure that your business is compliant. So, to really take an advantage of this, we need to think about a very key thing. We need to shift our mindset from taking it as a point in time checklist or a point in time audit or a point in time compliance to a
Yeah.
continuous compliance. So
Yeah.
we need to ensure that this compliance controls are always aligned with our business, are always aligned with our risk scenarios. We need to ensure that these compliance checklists or controls are part of our standardized controls, are helping us to improve the visibility, are helping us to enable our automation. So we need to ensure that this is a continuous job. It's a framework or a structured framework for organization that we need to formalize it to
Yeah.
better improve our maturity and not just passing our audits.
Yeah, that's great. That's actually very great answer for my understanding. Yeah.
Thank
So, in your experience from the experience you have in cybersecurity and technology, what separates organization that recover quickly from cyber incidents that those from those that struggle, basically?
So when you think about incidents,
Yeah.
and the most important thing, the core thing, as I understood from your question, is more about the instant response.
Yeah.
And again, incident response, I'm going to say, similar to what we've discussed in the capability of the and the compliance checklist, it's more of a capability in an organization. It's not just a document. You should not have just a document called incident response. It's more about a capability, and it's a continuous capability. And that's why, similar to the fire drills we see in also organizations, you need to do some kind of also drills, for instance. You need to train your team about this incident response. You need to ensure that they are fully aware of such kind of incident response because this is very important because when the incident happen, it becomes very vital to ensure that you're following and recovering the business
Yeah, of course.
as soon as possible. This is the key thing. So what we can see in what I've seen in my experience as kind of gaps when you think about incident response is the, for example, the insufficient training. The cybersecurity SOC team are not maybe fully aware of the incident response and what are the steps needed. Some of the tools are not available. Some of the
Lack
logs
of
may be not
training. Yeah.
available. And
Yeah.
that's the main important. With this, and again, there's no ideal situation. You're going to have all of these kind of things. And that's why it requires a lot of intensive tuning, intensive training, enhancement. It's a capability that you're building over years.
Yeah. So it's just about keep on training and enhancing the skills, right?
Yes, skills, the tools,
Yeah.
your playbooks, ensuring that you're having the full visibility. I mean, in order to detect any for attack, in order to respond to anything, you need to have the full visibility. This kind of blind spots, you need to avoid them, which requires you to have the full visibility on organizations, all your assets, at least the critical assets, and so on.
That's correct, actually. Yeah. Have you seen any common mistakes organizations make while setting up their SOC or incident response strategy? Have you experienced it?
Yes, so as I mentioned, so I think the top mistake is the visibility. You cannot protect what you don't know about. So you need to ensure to protect something, you need to know about this asset or
Particularly.
whatever you're
Yeah.
protecting. So visibility is the main thing. Without having the proper visibility, looking, and that's where security starts first by identifying what are you protecting, what are your assets, what are
Yeah.
the crown jewels, this concept that's there, what are the critical assets you have. Are you able to get the logs from this? Are you able to have the proper visibility? Do you have the proper people? Do you have the proper tool? Do you have the proper logs? Do you have the proper environment or not? Another thing as well, sometimes people were going to have this kind of logs, have this kind of visibility, and they just immediately turn all this kind of logs and have this flow of logs coming to their SOC team. And this is a very common, again, mistake, a very common problem happens, which is the alert fatigue, where the team are having a lot of alerts, they're having a lot of logs. Yes, we have the visibility, but we are bombarded by a lot of logs and a lot of alerts coming to the team. Now, how can you identify the good one? How can you identify the false positive from the true positives? So this kind of alert fatigue, where automation can help things like AI or whatever. So this is another problem, which is the alert fatigue. Third problem, which I mentioned also earlier, which is our SOC team, our people themselves. Are they integrated? Do they have the proper authority? Do they have the proper communication? Do they have their own updated playbooks and scenarios that they need to go through it? These are the main things that I think need to enhance, and that I've seen most of these problems in several organizations across the last years.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've been listening to one word repeatedly these in this market right now with AI automation. So with AI evolving rapidly, do you think current compliance frameworks are enough to address AI related risks?
This is a problem, of course. AI is a double-edged sword. No conversation never happened without AI. And I assume even when we started, I think this video recording, there's some AI, some recording, some AI agent
Yeah.
working as well in the background.
Okay.
So it's a problem. Yani, when you think about the current frameworks
Yeah.
enough? Do we have? It's an evolving. I don't think it's 100%. We
Mm.
have some kind of these kind of traditional frameworks, like for example, when you think about ISO, when you think about NIST, and they are trying to shift as well and introduce their own AI version in the new. So it's moving. So we are seeing new versions from the traditional ones. For example, the ISO, they released like a couple of years, the ISO 42001, the NIST, they used to have the NIST risk management framework. They now published
Yeah.
the risk AI, the NIST AI framework. So things are emerging, things are coming
Yeah.
again. But again, with things like AI, again, compliance and regulatory mandates or the standardizations or the frameworks is one part of the game. But again, we need to work it together because with AI, there's a lot of things. When you think about, for example, the behavior of AI, the bias and the explainability in the AI, the AI supply chain, there will be no one single framework, one single governance dealing with all these kind of things. It's multiple and bits and pieces, and this is where it relies about us, about the security professionals, about the risk professionals, about the technology leaders inside the organizations to put their own frameworks that picks among all these kind of international standards and frameworks to have their own framework. And it needs again the continuous improvement because it will not be the same as we will
Yeah.
expect maybe in the next 2, 3 years. And this is the dilemma. It's a double-edged sword. That's all we'll say about AI with security and compliance.
So, like, do you think ethical governance is as important for organizations for adopting AI-driven security solutions?
100%.
Yeah.
It's not just important, it's critical. It's not an optional. Governance specifically when it comes with AI is something extremely critical. Think about it. Without governance, then how can you, for example, the AI decisions, the responses you're getting. A few days ago, I was just chatting with on one of the famous AI tools, and the answers with the links that this tool gave back was not 100% correct. And I challenged the tool, and they apologized and said, yes, this was not correct. So without the proper governance, how you can think about the decisions? The decisions will be more about an opaque, unexplainable. You will have, as I mentioned, the risk of a lot of things like the bias, leakage, for example, of data. On top of this, you might find a lot of regulatory violations if not proper having the proper governance in most of our region here, a lot of the regions where we have a lot of regulatory mandates about the data sovereignty and maintaining the data. How are you going to manage this without a proper governance? On the other
Yeah.
side, if you have a proper governance, really, and I mentioned it's something critical, then you have the main key elements of the AI, for example, things like transparency, accountability, trustworthiness, and all these kind of things. You cannot trust a system. We used to say before that you cannot trust a system without all these kind of guardrails. With AI, we can say simply, you cannot trust an AI system or an AI decision system if this system cannot explain and answer your questions about how it made the decision and how it reached this conclusion.
Yeah. That's correct. Now, like coming to the cloud as well, do you think the cloud transformation has changed compliance and risk management strategies? Do you see the shift?
So when you think about it, when you think about what happened in the 20 years, technology passed by several steps and major steps. So back in 20 years, people old like me would used to have their own data centers and have everything inside their own buildings and inside in their offices. And then we started moving to the cloud. And then think about this. Without all these steps, we've never reached the current step, which is we're doing now, which is, for example, the AI. So the cloud, to be honest, changed everything. The cloud changed everything. For example, if you think about the improvements, if you think about the good things, you think about the real time, you think about the easy expansion, the easy to go to the business, the easy to market, the automation, all these kind of things are extremely important. It gave you a lot of, from a compliance perspective, back to your question, and the risk, it gives you a lot of good benefits with the continuous risk assessments. On the other side, it also throws a lot of challenges, which is the cloud is mainly about a shared responsibility model. You're going to the cloud, which means that someone else is working with you on your infrastructure, on your data, on your application. So this shared responsibility and defining a proper RACI matrix is very important. Some of it is lack of visibility because you're dealing with the cloud in most of the cases on some kind of layer, but you're not seeing, for example, some other layers that are hidden, some other maybe infrastructure, some other under layers that you don't have visibility on it, which is very important. We've seen with the cloud, especially in the early days of the cloud, a lot of issues with the configuration because the cloud provider, and people sometimes misinterpret it, is giving you the tools, is giving you the technology, and then you still have the responsibility for the configuration, for applying your own guards, for applying your own compliance checklists. So it's very important. With the cloud, also, we have seen a lot of risk coming from third party. Now, again, we've seen the supply chain, all this kind of things. So it's very important that whenever you talk about security, whenever you talk about compliance, also the keyword that these things should not come in a later stage. These things should become in a first stage. These things should become in the design. Whenever you're designing an application, whenever you're moving to the cloud, things should be built in, not added on top of the application on later stage.
Yeah, yeah, that's correct. Yeah. Like, what are the biggest cybersecurity compliances challenges, especially in organizations you've seen, especially in the GCC region currently?
So when you think about compliance, and the most and the most challenges when you think about compliances, again, the technologies. When you think about things, for example, we mentioned, for example, the cloud. And with the cloud, in most of, for example, GCC, we have a lot of regulations and mandates about the data sovereignty and which data should go, for example, to the cloud and which data should stay inside the soil. And where's the risk assessment that you're doing? And
Yeah.
have you analyzed this data? What are the kind of guardrails? And if it went to the cloud, for example, what are the kind of controls you're having? So this is a key thing when you think about compliance and the challenges from in this case from again in our region as well, because I mean data is, when you go to the cloud, the most important thing you need to think about now is data. Data is the most critical domain you're having here because no more, there's no more separate data centers, the more local data centers. Data can be everywhere, and if it went outside of an organization, controlling it becomes more difficult. This is where you put the controls. There's where the most of the regulatory and most of the compliance and most of the standardization are looking for these kind of things. And then the most important thing again, what happened if things went wrong? What about your cyber resilience? Cyber resilience is a very hot topic now. Everyone need to ensure are we taking a proper incident response? Are we, as we mentioned, are we testing our incident response plans, or is just maybe just a theoretical document just in our drawers? Do we have some kind of clear decision making? Who's taking decision? And when something happened wrong, what do we need to do? Are we doing, for example, security? Is it working in an isolated environment, or is it really integrated with the business? Do we have this business and security integration? Because this is the main thing. So all of these kind of things are boiling together to ensuring that we are properly adhering to the compliance, properly understanding the technologies that we are going through and the change of technology, and preparing ourselves to be a proper resilient in this environment.
That's correct. So, in CyberSlay, like some of the audience are also are students, especially looking for some guidance, some advice from the technology leaders itself. So, for students aspiring to become CISOs or cybersecurity leaders, so what technical and non-technical skills should they focus on? What do you suggest for them?
So for someone going in the, I mean, some just in the early stages in security, or someone want to got, for example,
Want to
as a
pursue?
uh, so I mean, technical understanding is a must.
Yeah.
There's something you cannot just have just a leader, for example, who didn't pass by this kind. So technical, from my perspective, again, this is my perspective. technical understanding,
Yeah.
solid understanding is a must, especially if you're entering the field from the beginning. You need to have the proper understanding. You have a proper understanding, for example, from a networking perspective. You need to understand the cloud, definitely. You need to understand the AI, how it works. This is your foundational layer. This is your
Yeah.
foundation for anyone. And then for people who are yeah, dealing or looking, for example, to become a future leader or a CISO or whatever, uh, I will stick on important things like, for example, understanding the resilience. It's very important. Understanding things like risk. You need to think from a risk mentality. Security person is a risk mentality. He lives in kind of a risk, understanding the risk. He's a risk strategist. He's a business enabler.
Yeah.
In most of the scenarios, he's a translator. Sometimes you translate between these acronyms and these regulatory mandates and these standardizations to a normal business English language, so he can communicate it inside
Yeah.
things. So to become a leader, it requires on top of the foundational technical background, it requires the business skills, the risk skills, the proper communication skills with the team members and stakeholders inside the organization.
Yeah, that's true. Communication, risk skills. Yeah,
Yeah.
I completely agree with that. And also, like, and also an advice also for people who are building to like start a startup companies or growing companies trying to build a strong compliance and security foundations from scratch. What advice would you give to them?
So we're seeing a lot of startups, and we're seeing everyone's dreaming of the
Startup
uh,
company. Yeah.
yes, exactly. So we've mentioned this before. Security and compliance should be built in. This should be in the design phases. Imagine yourself, think about yourself. If you're going to one of the startups looking, for example, a couple of days ago, I was checking something and we're looking for some kind of financial application, some of this. So the first thing I searched is this financial institution, is it regulated by who? For example, if I'm going to put money or so I'm going to invest something, are this regulated? Is it backed up by something? So compliance and security, it gives the your end customer when he knows, for example, that your startup is regulated, is approved, is legalized, has this, for example, ISO, has blah, 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 all these kind of things. It gives him some kind of satisfaction that this is an organization or a startup that's treating security and taking it really serious. And on the security side, of course, you're building this kind of thing. Again, it's not a checklist.
Yeah.
Second thing, try my advice. Things are going out to the cloud. Try to adopt. If someone is starting maybe a startup, try to adopt a cloud native security. Go for the cloud native security at an early stage. And when you go
Okay.
to the cloud, focus on the main controls, which is the data protection. Focus on the encryption, how you're encrypting and what the keys you're encrypting. Focus on your identity, how your user and customers are connecting. Focus on the visibility, which is the logging and the monitoring. These are the main themes that we need to ensure that your startup as well is easy to scale up.
Yeah.
A lot of new companies, for example, they are not able at some point in stage to scale up their technology. So scaling up is one of the things that also that they need to consider. These are just quick hints and advice from my side.
That's a great advice for people who are looking to build a startup or who are looking to build a strong compliance. Yeah, I completely agree with that. So Ahmed, I'll quickly switch to our rapid fire session. Uh, I've prepared a few questions for you, and I'll be very glad if you answered those for me. So, uh, cloud misconfiguration or phishing, which causes more breaches, in your opinion?
So looking for quick answers, yes or no?
It's up to you. If you want to
Uh,
give quick or
I would think phishing is more causes more breaches than cloud configuration, and this has
yeah.
been very predominant in most of the breaches and exploits they've been reporting that this is the major contributor for most of which is because of the human error, of course.
Yeah, okay. So one security tool you can't work without.
One security tool,
Yeah.
I would think XDR.
Okay. So AI and cybersecurity, biggest advantage or biggest risk?
Both.
Oh,
It's an
nice.
advantage, of course. An advantage. It give you the real-time detection, give you the automation, the speed we're seeing, all this kind of thing, all these nice things. But again, it's a risk. A lot of bad people, malicious people, are using it in attacks. We've seen a lot of attacks on AI, the deep fake phishing and stuff like this.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Fastest way organization can improve security posture.
Security posture. Focus on humans, which means increasing of the security awareness. This is number one things. And the second thing, enforce and improve your identity, which is the logging and MFA and stuff like this. With a
Yeah.
good security, with a good MFA, you have an improved security posture.
Password or passwordless, future of authentication.
Passwordless.
Okay. Most important soft skill for a future CISO.
Number one, number two, number three, communication.
Yeah, yeah. One habit every cybersecurity professional should develop.
Um, Always learn, continuous learning. Things
Yeah,
are changing. Unfortunately, this is the career we've picked up. Technology is changing every day.
yeah.
We need to ensure that we are continuously learning.
Upgrading and enhancing skills every
Yes.
day. Yeah.
Yeah.
One cybersecurity myth you want to burst today.
One, sorry, what?
One
Myth.
cybersecurity misconception or myth you want to burst that people have.
So some organizations have this myth that um, we are okay and we are secure because we have the best in class tools. This is one of the myths because attacks might happen even if you have the best security tools. It's
Yeah.
all about how you're organizing these tools, how you're forming your kind of defense of depth. Do you have the proper process? Because again, it's not about tools. You remember the old triangle. That's about, tools is one of them, but we have the people themselves and we have the process. So technology is good, but technology for the sake of technology is meaningless. Without the proper process, without the proper humans that are applying this process and using this technology and ensuring that they are properly trained and skilled, this will fail. So just getting the top class car, getting the Ferrari car without having someone to drive it,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's correct. What's more dangerous, unpatched systems or unaware employees?
definitely unaware employees. Humans, that's humans are the primary or the first attack vector. This is well known. They all say they can be the weakest link in the chain, or they can be the strongest link in the chain with a proper training. And if you're training your internal employees properly, they can defend. And we should extend this as well to our external customers. And that's why we can see now a lot of alerts, a lot of awareness messages coming and went to the customers. You should not click on this, you should not do this. So if we can raise this, and this is our duty as security professionals in our communities, if we can raise this awareness, if we can ensure that the people are really aware, they understand what should they click, what shouldn't click, what is expected, for example, for a financial institution, what they should be asked for, what they should not ask for, who will call them on the phone, all these kind of things. These are important. This will eliminate a lot of the current threats that we're having.
Ahmed, I have one last question for you to conclude the session. So, like, in your opinion, what does the future of cybersecurity look like in the age of AI, automation, and evolving regulations? How would you see that?
Very difficult. No, I think again we are moving and we are shifting to a new era.
Yeah.
Technologies and the attack surface is increasing, which will become very challenging. There's a lot of opportunities. Yes, there is challenges. Attack surface is increasing. We're seeing a lot of challenges for the security teams, which is true. But there is an opportunity. There's a great opportunity. There's a lot of things now that we used to do like in 10, 15 years that took us days and weeks that can be easily done now in minutes and hours. So the future, a lot of opportunities, a lot of risks. We need to capitalize and work on the opportunities and reduce these kind of challenging risks.
That's a very great intake of what it's going to be look like. Thank you so much, Ahmad, for joining us with today. It's been such a great pleasure to have you on the show, and I hope everyone watching today have got an understanding about compliance, automation, and also cloud transformation as well. And yeah, everyone who's watching today, this is what CyberSlay is about. We'll be meeting you very soon with a very exciting episode. Thank you so much, Ahmad. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks. Hope this has
Thank
been
you.
insightful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.